Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Boston Straight Hooters. I'm your host for this evening, Steve, aka Negative Ned. Frank is away, not able to make it, so he's stuck with me for the next hour. We're gonna break down the Celtics, the Red Sox, the Bruins, and the Patriots. We were off last week, so there's been a lot of developments, and we're gonna touch on everything and get you guys all caught up to speed. So let's kick it off. Where is? Hold on one sec. Bear with me one second. I'm trying to. Kev, I see you, but I don't know how to add you to this. So bear with me. We'll get there. Hi Denise, I see you. All right, I see comments, which is good. Find a way to tag me in, Coach Kev. All right, hang tight. Let me. This is all new now, so now I'm trying to figure out how to put you in, Kev. Hang tight. Where is the? This is so annoying. So annoying. Wow. Um, all right, it's not letting me do it. Okay, it's not letting me do that, Kev. Hang tight for 1 second so I can figure this out. Nope. Wow. All right. Well, let me get started while I try and work around the bugs here. All right. So, big development this past week. The Celtics announced that they are for sale, and Wick Grossbeck, who has been the governor of the Celtics, has made the announcement that his family is selling their share of the team, and there's a lot there. Did not realize that his father is the one that owns a majority of the stakes, so to speak, and that Wick only has like less than 2% actual ownership of the team. Um, Sorry, I'm trying to navigate so I can try to let Kevin. This is not going the way I thought it was going to go. All right. Anyways, his father's 90 years old, and it sounds like he's trying to get his affairs in order, so to speak. Uh, so the best time for them to sell is now, when it's worth more than it's probably ever going to be worth. Um, so it's quite a shock. It's quite a shock to see that they're selling, but it definitely makes sense given how much they're worth now. The estimates are they're worth over $5 billion, and so there's a lot of unknowns as far as somebody else going to swoop in, big you know people with big bucks swoop in and buy it. Um, inside, Steve Pagliuca, who's also one of the owners, is interested in putting in bid. So we'll have to see how that goes. Um, but Wick has been the face of the franchise, as the governor and whatnot for the last, 20 years, so to speak. And he said that the way that it's going to go is it's going to go in two tiers, and that he's hopeful to stay on until 2028. I don't see how that would work if, some gazillionaire came in and bought it, how he would be in there and stay if they didn't want him. Um, so it'll be really interesting to see what kind of bidders they get. We've heard all kinds of, you know, can a person that owns a casino get it? Can other groups get it? Kev says Tom Brady and LeBron might team up for the purchase. That's interesting since LeBron is already part of the Fenway Sports group somehow. That would not be a surprise to see either or both of them do that. It would be odd. It would be really odd though for LeBron to be playing on the Lakers and then be part of the ownership of the Celtics. I don't know how that would fly. I think that's kind of like a no-no. That probably would not work. Given that Tom Brady, he's going to have his hands full with the broadcasting gig, but it wouldn't be a surprise if he tried to be part of an investment group, maybe even with Pagliuca as part of that. I mean, what could Tom put in? 2, 5, 10, 20%, who knows? But that would be pretty wild if Tom Brady was a part owner of the Celtics. So I think that would probably be welcome around here if I had to guess, because nobody, everybody loves him still around here. He would. I don't know if he would be a face, so to speak. Maybe he would just be in the background. But we'll see. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting. There's all kinds of speculation and so forth as to what it's going to be. And the other part of it too is that the Celtics don't have their own building, right? They share with the Bruins, and so new owners might want to build their own arena and leave TD Garden. And so there's a whole bunch of ideas as to where to put it, near the waterfront, I'm sure, or just anywhere in and around the city, so long as they don't make the traffic any worse than it is. I mean, traffic's already a nightmare down there. I don't know how they would figure out the logistics. I'm sure they'd work it out. But a new building, and so that could be a hindrance for the Bruins because the Celtics are paying them rent, and they would lose that money. Kev says, personally, I would hate a Tom Brady, but L LeBron, no way. Yeah, I don't think anybody around here would be happy if LeBron was part owner of the Celtics after being part of all the other teams he's been on. He should buy part of the Lakers. He should stay out in the West Coast, stay 3,000 miles away, don't bother us. Stay out there with your kid, and leave us alone. I'm all for that. But there's a lot that needs to take place. There's going to be time. I'm sure it's not going to sell I don't think it's going to be a quick thing. There's going to be all kinds of bids. It's probably got to go before the league. The league has to, you know, whoever bids on it, they have to approve them. You know, there's going to be a whole mess of stuff going on. So I would imagine that at least for the 24-25 season, I would anticipate that nothing's going to change. It would surprise me if anything happened like by the end of the year. I don't know if they can get it done that quickly. Somebody like, you know, Jeff Bezos from Amazon would have to come in and be like, yeah, here's a boatload of cash. I want to buy the Celtics, and then maybe it would go quickly. But if a whole bunch of groups get involved and there's like 5-10 bids, they're gonna weed them out, and that takes time. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see who ponies up the dough, what kind of control they have, all kinds of scenarios. You know, is Wick still going to be a part of it or not? I also heard he's not happy about it because I don't think he was told beforehand. Like before the Celtics won the championship, I don't think he knew that his father was going to do this. So he's probably not happy. But you know, I didn't realize he's in his mid-60s. So listen, you know, how much time does he have left? You know, 5 years maybe, 10. I mean, who knows? But you know, there's no. You know what, Denise? That's a good point. Getting out of the lease with the Bruins, that could be a hassle too. I don't know what the terms are. I didn't even think to look it up. But that'll be something to do in the next week to find out how long the lease runs. Because if it runs for another 5 years, then that's going to have to be negotiated by whoever, you know, if somebody buys the team and they want to move it to a new building, it definitely have to be negotiated. And on top of that, I saw today that the NBA has agreed with ESPN, Amazon, and NBC Universal on an 11-year, $76 billion TV deal. And so that's going to change a bunch of stuff. You know, they're not going to be on TNT anymore. So now those games are going to be all over the place. It's going to be crazy. How many games are going to be on Amazon? NBC Universal, I don't know what the hell channels they have streaming. I didn't even get a chance to look. But that's nonsense I can do without, that's for sure. I do want to move along from that and talk about the Celtics re-signing all their guys. They re-signed Jason Tatum to the max contract extension, which is $314 or $15 million over 5 years. So now he's the highest paid NBA player. Last year was Jaylen Brown, $304 million. I'm sure next year somebody will top that. At some point it'll be, you know, $400 and $500 million with these guys. It's way out of control. They also re-signed Derek White, 4 years, $126 million. That's a good signing. They have they re-signed Luke Cornett is back on a 1-year deal. Sam Hauser's option was picked up. Nevis Quaid's re-signed. I think he signed a 2-year deal. So I like the fact that they brought everybody back. I think they realized that they have a window here. I still think that they do need to add a big man. In the draft, they drafted a guard. He's 6'8". He's a Sam Hauser type. He's a shooter. He's a 3-point guy. Denise, the money all these professional players get, and it's getting worse and worse. It's like monopoly money now at this point. I mean, it's absolute insanity. But the owners keep paying it, so you know the owners are making fistfuls of dollars, and the players are trying to get their piece. And so as long as the owners keep paying them, it's never going to end. But I think you're looking at next year. Sam Hauser's contract is going to be up. and I think that kid that they drafted is going to replace him. Because I don't see any way they're going to pay Sam Hauser 8, 9, 12, 15 million bucks. It's not feasible. The other thing I meant to bring up with the sale of the team is that all these contracts, you know, next year and the year after, like this past year, they paid 41 million in luxury tax, and next year it's probably going to be higher with all these new, aprons and thresholds and whatever the salary cap is. It's probably another factor why they want to sell now and give somebody else the headache of trying to re-sign all these guys and keep them, because if they paid that much in luxury tax, did they actually make money or did they lose? Uh, that's definitely a factor. Yep. Denise again, ticket prices are pricing fans out of the building. They're pricing me out. I can't afford it. Well north of $100 for a ticket. It's too much. It's it's just not. It's not worth it. I don't know how people have season tickets. I don't know how they can afford them, but whatever, you know what I mean. But whatever they, can afford, whatever they can do. I mean, the buildings still sell out. All of them, pretty much, are still, the Celtics and Bruins are selling out. So I don't know how they do it, but they do. So there's just fistful of dollars being made everywhere and being spent. So that's not going to change anytime soon. Yeah. You know what? The only thing is, the Celtics do need to find maybe another big guy somehow. Maybe later on in the year they may have to. I'm all for, to be honest with you, giving Cornette some more minutes and giving Quaid more of a look. A guy that's a young, athletic guy. He brings energy. O'Shea Brissett, he's another guy. He's a free agent. He's testing the waters. I don't know if they can bring him back, but I would. And give these guys a little bit more run with Porzingis out, and try and rest Horford. Again, before the All-Star break, they're gonna have plenty of time to, work on matchups and roster, substitutions and so forth with all these guys. Spencer Tillman's back too. I think he signed a 2-year deal. So the nucleus and everybody's here for at least a couple years. So I think they're in good shape. They're in good shape, and they have a really good chance to repeat. And I do want to mention also that Jason Tatum is on the USA Olympic team, and today Derek White was added as Kawhi Leonard was decided to leave. I don't know if he decided to leave or what the circumstances were behind him leaving, but Derek White was added, and so now there's all kinds of speculation that the Jason Tatum has a hand in Jaylen Brown not being picked to replace Kawhi Leonard. I heard some scuttlebutt today about Jason Tatum was like, hey, he won the Eastern Conference MVP, and he won the Finals MVP, so now there's no way I'm going to let him steal my thunder in the Olympics. I don't know how true that is. You know how the rumors go around. They can't help themselves. They have to stir the pot. And I haven't dug into who's on that roster just yet, because they're just getting their first practices in. I'm sure with the Olympics starting in 2 weeks, we're going to talk more about it. Hopefully Frank will be back next week, and hopefully I can figure this out, Kev, and we'll get Kev back in here too to talk about it. I'm sure you guys are going to be watching USA basketball. Unfortunately, because they're over in France now, there's a time difference. I think they're 6 hours ahead of us. So the first game is on at 10:30 at night. I won't see it. So if those games are going to be like that, I won't see many of them, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of highlights or replays and whatnot, hopefully. So I'll get a chance to catch some of it. But I believe they're the favorites. They should be in good shape. I know they've disappointed the last couple of times around, but they should be very good with what they have there. All right, let me watch the time a little bit. Um, we're gonna move on to the Red Sox, the actually hot Red Sox. Uh, I am in shock at where they are. Um, I'm shocked at where they are. To be honest with you, I did not see them being 10 games over 500 at this point in the season for sure. I had them at 78 wins, so they are way overachieving given what the roster has been built with. And you've heard me say on here many times, Ocean State job lot, dumpster dive guys. They just keep picking guys up off the scrap heap. They just traded for some guy from Detroit. Came in yesterday, pitched 1 inning, gave up 3 runs. They're guys that are going to have options to go back and forth between Worcester. And they need that because of injuries or the bullpen being taxed. So I get it. He's just an arm. But Alex Cora has really done an outstanding job with the way that he's got these guys to play. I think that, this is definitely. We had Jacoby Ellsbury back in around 2000-ish, whatever, and he was lightning fast, and you basically have Jarren Duran now as Ellsbury 2.0, what I call him, and you got Hamilton who's fast, and you got Raffaella, and so those guys are bringing speed. The Red Sox have never had this kind of speed. And those guys are all tearing it up on the base paths. I want to say both Duran and Hamilton have over 20 steals. Duran made the All-Star team. And listen, 2 years ago I wanted to run him out of town after he loafed on that fly ball. That was driving me nuts. So to see his growth, it's good to see. I'm happy for him. When I again, we shoot straight here. So when I'm wrong, I'm not afraid to say I was wrong about this guy. And so kudos to him for making the All-Star team and being a spark plug. He's played every game. He's been a spark at the top of the order. It's been much needed. Kev says they better not fire Cora. Well, earlier in the year I said he was going to be fired by the All-Star break because I didn't think that they'd be playing this well, given the way the roster's been built. I don't know that they'd fire him now. I think the only way that they'd fire him is at the deadline if they do nothing again and the team starts to tank in August. They might, with like a month left, 6 weeks left maybe, because if he loses the team and they start falling flat like they did last year and the year before, it's going to be clear that none of those guys are going to be happy and their heart's not going to be in it as much. And so you're better off getting a new voice. Now, I don't want to see that. I maintained that they should have signed him before the season, but it's obvious that and I brought this up too, when they hired Chaim Bloom. Typically, the manager is not hired before the GM. The GMs usually get to pick their own guy. Now, in this case, I would pick Alex Cora 1,000 times before picking Chaim Bloom and Craig Breslow, because those guys are both the same. They're robots, both of them. And Cora is way more valuable, in my opinion. But the way that the Red Sox want to run, with John Henry not wanting to spend money, those kind of guys fit the profile. Alex Cora is kind of a hindrance to what they're trying to do as far as building from within, keeping the payroll down, and basically trying to fool the fan base. And so there were some comments made I heard earlier. Alex Cora spoke and said that wasn't the case, that they're not trying to lose on purpose, whatever. He's probably not, because it'll look bad for him if he's trying to get another job if they're doing crappy. The fact that he has them where they are now, if they finish over 500 or anywhere near the wild card race. I mean, forget if they make it, right? If they make the wild card, that would be a feather in his cap. But if they're 500 or a few games over 500, and they miss the wild card by a couple games. Uh, I think either way, he's gonna have suitors. I think that's part of the reason that he didn't want to extend and talk about contract extension this year. I think he knows what's coming. He's gonna have more of the same for the next. If he signed a 5-year extension, he's stuck with this for 5 years. He's stuck with Breslow, and this, flotsam and jetsam, uh, dumpster dive nonsense. Denise, yeah, listen, I said it on here. I said it on here when I called out Sam Kennedy. This is Boston. No one's fooling the fan base. Again, they're gaslighting everybody here. They're trying to get us to believe their BS. And this market's not going to stand for that. Now, unfortunately, because it's summertime and because it's a tourist destination, a lot of people are going to want to see Fenway Park. But I think you're going to find, like last year near the end, if they're not in it or if they're not putting out a good enough product, more of the visiting fans are going to come here and make more noise than the home fans. And I don't know if that sticks in their craw. I think they don't care as long as they sell the tickets, right? Because it's different if the fan base tunes them out and 10,000 people stop going, right? So instead of drawing 38,000, you're drawing 28,000. But now you got all these fans from everywhere else, and you get 5, 6, 8,000 fans from wherever, L.A., Dodgers, Toronto, New York, whatever. I don't think that they care as much as they would back in the day when they were winning championships. I mean, the Red Sox were, the old Red Sox nation, and they are to an extent when they go down south to like Tampa. The Red Sox travel well, and even in Baltimore, especially up until the last couple of years, they've been louder than Baltimore's fans or Tampa Bay's fans. That's going to start happening more and more here as they keep payroll down and they're trying to have cost-effective homegrown guys. And this wishy-washy, and here's the thing that's really driving me insane, because Craig Breslow was interviewed multiple times over this past week. He was on Sunday Night Baseball with ESPN, and they are looking at data-driven. Give me a second because I have it here. Data-driven probability, and they use algorithms and percentages. And the new thing is that this is a basketball now, and it's in all sports now. We live in an expected world. What are they expected to do? 43% chance of making the wild card last week. This week it might be 50%, but if they don't have a 60 or 75% chance of making the playoffs, they might do like they did last year, nothing. The numbers are telling everything. Instead of the eyeball test, which I've been harping on with Frank on here, numbers of times. I think that they do use numbers when they use matchups, like, so-and-so is, 2 for 20 against X pitcher, that stuff. But the whole probability algorithm, all the sabermetric nonsense they got going on now, they want the managers and head coaches to be robots. I mean, Joe Mazzulla to Cross Sports again. How many times did he come out after a loss when they threw up 53s and said our chances of making them is better? The more we take, the more chance we have of making them. So this is all data-driven nonsense, and so that's what they want. And I don't. I'm tired of it. Football is getting that way too. This whole thing of going for it on 4th down all the time, it's insanity. It's stupid. The coaches are not being able to use their own intuition, their own gut, and that to me takes away from some of the stuff that they're trying to do. And I think that Alex Cora, really has a good feel for the players, what their strengths and weaknesses are, when to pinch hit a guy or when to, pull a pitcher out of the lineup. I mean, there's not too many guys that are good at that left. I don't think. You know, all these guys are going to be all robots. I mean, it's just stupid, absolute stupidness, and the whole. It started with Moneyball, with Oakland, and I think it's gotten worse up to now. I think this is just absolute, crazy. I mean, I love numbers, but the way that they're doing this is wrong. In baseball, you still have to be able to tell, if a guy has it or not the night that he's pitching. If he doesn't have it, he's got to get the hook. You have to be able to, if it's time to pinch hit for somebody, a lot of times when they won the World Series in 2018 with Cora pushing the right buttons, Terry Francona, same thing. They send a guy to the plate in a clutch situation, in a pinch hit, spot, and they hit a home run. No analytics are going to give you that. No data-driven probability or expected world nonsense is going to give you that. You got to have some kind of a gut that says, hey, I think this is going to work here. And if it doesn't work, that doesn't work. Those guys are, when it works, they're the smartest guys in the world. When it doesn't work, they're dumb as a box of rocks. But you have to let them do some of it. You can't just give it to them. Yeah, Denise, you're spot on. I mean, we want players playing. We want to see, all the stats. Some of the stats, fine, I get it, but some of the stuff is just nonsense. I mean, it's over the top, and a lot of JJ Redick type, JJ Redick type of analytics BS. Yeah, I mean, look, same boat. Here's a guy that's got no experience getting ready to coach the Lakers. What's he gonna, I'll give you a perfect, yeah. I have to laugh because I'm gonna give you a perfect example of of somebody that absolutely despise the new technology. And all I can think of is when Bill Belichick threw the tablet and went back to looking at the pictures and said, get this crap out of here, I don't need this. And I was on the floor laughing. I mean, the tablet is one thing, I get it, but it won't work over the long haul because you're gonna lose the personal touch. And I think that you still need that. You have to be able to connect with the guys, and you have to be able to use, again, cross sports. Use basketball. And I'll use that now because last year we hopped on Joe Mazzulla for not calling the timeouts in a timely manner and letting the data drive it and throw up the threes. This year he got much better at the feel of the game. I got a 20-point lead, now it's down to 8. Okay, let me call a timeout. He wasn't doing that last year. And again, we spoke about it, whether that was the assistant coaches, prodding him and saying, hey, this is the time, or not. He did it. And so more, teams need that. Jim Montgomery on the Bruins needs to push the right buttons, and so forth. So Alex Cora, same thing. Football coach, they got to have an idea. They got to. You can't just look at a sheet or some tablet and be like, okay, this is it. I mean, I wouldn't be able to do it. I wouldn't. They would. I can tell you right now, if I was a football coach. I was coaching the Lions last year when they were playing San Francisco, and they went for it on that 4th down, and I wouldn't have went. I would have kicked the field goal, and afterwards, I probably would have got fired because I would have told them, "F off." You guys aren't down there. I don't care what your data says. We kicked the field goal, and that helped us win the game. Bite me. But they don't do that, right? They're not allowed, and they can't come out afterwards. The coach can't come out afterwards and say, "Well, I wanted to do it this way, but I washed my hands and just did what they said." They're not going to come out and say that if that's how they feel. they don't do it. And I'll use Alex Cora as an example today. His comments about, oh, I don't think they're trying to tank. Listen, given what they've given you, if they don't add, I disagree. You know, but he has to come out and say the right things, because he can't come out there and be like, well, yep, we know they're trying to lose. It's the old, you know, major league when the owner was trying to tank, and in the clubhouse they had a cardboard cover of the owner, and every time they won, they were stripping off her clothes or whatever. It might be the same thing in the Red Sox clubhouse. They might have something like a dartboard with John Henry's face on it. Be like, okay, we're winning again. Boom. I don't know, but he can't come out. And I don't think he can come out anymore and say it is what it is with regards to the roster. He already did that, right? He did that the last 2 years, and so now I think he's got to try to spin it, because he has to worry about losing the locker room. And I agree with him, because that's more. What's the word I'm looking for? That is has more of an effect on him personally for his next job, his next gig, than the owners of the Red Sox or whatever, Chaim Bloom, Breslow, Bloom 2.0. I'll call him, because that's what he is. I think there's a realization that, okay, we have some talent here. We're going to keep doing what we do. I'm going to pump these guys up. We'll do what we can. And if they fall short, it won't be his fault. Again, you're trying to get the guy to make filet mignon out of chicken salad. Same thing as Jim Montgomery this year, trying to make filet mignon out of chicken salad. I mean, you can only do so much. Some guys can get more out of less. Yeah, of course. It's a no-brainer. That's the whole objective. But when you see the guys they bring in, you just shake your head. So I don't know, Alex Cora. So I want to get off Alex Cora for half a second. I do want to give credit and kudos to also Tanner Houck and Rafael Devers for making the All-Star team. So they have three representatives. Devers is not going to play in the All-Star game. He is staying out of it to rest his shoulder. He's had a shoulder that's been bothering him most of the year, starting in spring training. He's had to take a day off here and there or whatever. I think it's a smart move, especially if the 2 weeks leading up to the deadline you're going to need him. And there's definitely some scuttlebutt about how serious the injury is, whether they're just saving him. Like, what's the scale? 1 to 10. I'm gonna save my commentary on that for later on, because I actually do have a prediction ready this week, and it's a Red Sox prediction. So I'm gonna save the rest of that thought on his shoulder for later on. But he's been playing through it. He's probably getting treatment every day or whatever. Whatever they're doing that's working. He's having a great year, and you need that from your top guy. So, and I think he's gotten a little bit better this year defensively. I mean, a tick. I mean, he's been better. Last year he made a lot of errors, and you just can't have those. But I think he's getting a little better, and that's all you can ask for. He's not making the same type of errors he was making last year. So, good for him. Good for them. They need some bright spots. Brian Bayer yesterday, a guy they gave $9 million a year to and signed for 6 years. Young guy. He's got something wrong with him. I think he needs a mental break. I would do like they did with Chris Martin. I'd put him on the DL for mental anguish or whatever you want to call it. Give him a break. Let him go to Worcester and work with Pedro. I don't care what you do, but seeing him not right. He has really good stuff. Struck out 11 guys, which is misleading. Gave up 5 runs. Luckily, the offense bailed him out. But I mean, he's a guy that they're going to need right in the second half. I would try to do something with him in the short term to see if they can get him right. so that after the break, they can have a better version of him down the stretch. All right, let me watch the time again. I spent I spent more on the Red Sox than I wanted. Uh, Denise, any sport your data isn't going to do it. You have your stats. Emotion is always part of everything. That's true. That's always going to be part of sports. You can't take that away. No matter what the sport is, you're going to need it. All right. Moving along to the Bruins. Big news with the Bruins. Between the between free agency and the draft, I'll touch on the draft first because that happened before free agency started. So, if anybody's not aware, most people are. Linus Ullmark was traded to Ottawa for Korpisalo, a fourth line guy, Dan Kostelic, who's going to bring some grit, and first round pick in 2024 draft. The Bruins did not have a first, second, or third round pick in this year's draft. The Bruins drafted 6'7", 214-pound center, Dean Letourneau. He is slated to go to Boston College this year. I love it. They have not had success filling. I shouldn't say they didn't have success, but they they didn't have the kind of success they wanted with Bergeron and Krejci retiring. So they didn't really have that next guy in the pipeline. Now look, they have Coyle and Zacha trying to fill in as the 1-2 punch there. I think they did an admirable job. Coyle had a good year. Zacha had a decent year. He was weak on faceoffs, but I just think that, those guys' contracts are going to be expiring in a few years. And if this kid can pan out 2 or 3 years from now, you're going to have a guy that can be developed now, and hopefully he'll fill at least the number 2 role, worst case, for a little bit down the stretch. And I also love I love their 4th round selection. Another defenseman, a big kid, 6'3". I want to say 6'2" or 6'3". He seems like a stay-at-home physical type kid. He's slated to go to Quinnipiac University. Hope I'm saying that right. So there's another kid that, every once in a while they have college hockey on. These guys are going to be on Nesson probably or wherever. Maybe get a glimpse of some of these guys, hopefully. But I like what they did. Don Sweeney's draft track record has not been good. So, these picks here need to pan out. So I'm happy that they got back in the first round. So look, a lot of people are unhappy about Ullmark being traded for a number of reasons we touched on at the last show. Not getting enough salary cap relief was one of them. Excuse me for a second. Right. Getting the goalie back in return and eating 3/4 of his salary, and a guy that had a bad year. But I did hear that he has a history with the Bruins goalie coach, goalie Bob. Right, he's the miracle worker with getting these guys to play well. So I think the Bruins management probably feels that they can turn this guy around and have him as a decent backup. And there's a lot worse that they could do. I think that getting nothing for Ullmark again and waiting until the season starts or the trade deadline again to try to trade him is a detriment to Ullmark, who will probably sit most of the year now once they sign Swayman, if they sign him, and I'll get to that in a second. But having Ullmark sit and paying him $5 million is not feasible. So look, you got to have an experienced veteran to an extent. Now, I'm going to touch on free agency. I'm going to skip Swayman purposely for a second. The Bruins did sign a number 1 center, Elias Lindholm, 7 years, $7.75 million a year. he will be on the top line. Uh, he has the reputation of being a Bergeron type of a clone. He's good in all three zones. He was a Selke Award finalist. So, you know, he's not going to put up, you know, 90 or 100 points a year, but he'll get 60 to 70, you know, 25 goals hopefully, and straighten out, you know, hopefully Marchand, D'Angelo, Pasternak, or whoever's playing on right wing with him, and give them a better chance to rectify some of their offense. Now, they lost Jake DeBrusk to Vancouver and Danton Heinen, who went to Vancouver. I'm not upset by those two leaving at all, not one iota. There's nobody on this earth that's going to tell me that Danton Heinen should have been on the second line on this team. That's horrible. You know, a guy that was cut by Pittsburgh. So I'm not upset about losing it. I'm not upset about losing Jake DeBrusk. There's no way they were going to pay him $5.5 million or whatever he got from Vancouver for 6 years. He disappears too much. Yeah, he was good in the playoffs, but he's too inconsistent. And you got to get some more solid production from that spot. So I'm not upset with that at all. There's a hope that you know, some internal candidates will step up. You have Matt Poitras coming back from a shoulder injury. Hopefully he's bulked up a little bit. Maybe he can play wing, or they'll have to move somebody else over there. But you know, Trent Fredericks played wing. The kid Lysell, Fabian Lysell, that's been in Providence the last few years. You know, there's a hope that, you know, he'll step up. The Bruins told him basically, it's okay, skip the development camp and stay in Sweden or wherever he's from, and you know, develop and get your muscle, and you know, get bulked up and get ready to get over here and work. And I saw him in Providence. I wasn't impressed. The few times I've seen him, he has not impressed me at all. So again, right now it looks like a bust, but hopefully he can come in here and do something and give them some scoring punch in the top six. And one of the things that I hate that they do, the Bruins always, is they stick the kid on the third, fourth line, and they don't get much playing time. And then, you know, they get one assist in 10 games, and they send it back to Providence. It's like, you got to give him a legit shot. If you bring him up here for real, give him a legit shot and see what he can do. Because otherwise, you're not going to know what you have. And then if he's not, I mean, then you got to send him back, and then you know, trade him for a bag of pucks. I don't know, but there has to be a point. He's 22 or 23 now. You got to give him a legit shot. That's my opinion on that. Also, the Bruins signed Nikita Zadorov. If I could do a cartwheel without breaking something, I would. I've let it be known that I want them to get a guy that's big, that's physical, that's going to clear people out from in front of the net, a guy that's a Chris Pronger, Scott Stevens type of guy. This guy is spot on, 6'6", 250. This is exactly what they needed on defense. I'm sorry, and I would rather have that right now than another, you know, 30-goal winger, because they got pushed around way too much the last 2 years. I feel Florida pushed them around a lot, and you know, Matt Grzelcyk was here, and in the playoffs they had to sit him again. Undersized guy, was okay. He had a bad year this year because he was hurt. I mean, last year he was good, but in the playoffs they had to sit him numbers of times because he's too small. And I don't like the way too many times a guy on the other team was in front of the net with nobody taking whacks at our goalie. And Swayman and Allmark basically have to swat the guys away themselves. I don't want that anymore. I want a guy out there that's going to punish some people. This guy fits, so I love it. 6 years, $30 million. I think it's a good deal. $5 million a year. Real good. Denise, haven't said anything about Sweeney's stupidity with Swayman yet. All right, well, we're going to give you a chance to talk about that in a second. Hold on. But I like what they've done so far. You know, again, it's early, but if you're asking me to give them a grade right now, Sweeney, I gotta give him like a B plus. I mean, he got two of the top guys in free agency. Those guys aren't chopped liver. They were gonna get money no matter where they went. So those are good signings. The kid they drafted in the first round, I love him. I think it's a, it's not a slam dunk by any means, but they identified a kid with skill and size, and he's being compared to the kid in Buffalo, Tage Thompson, who's 6'6", 240, similar type of skill set. So, as I said to Frank a few weeks ago, in trades, sometimes you have to take a little bit back and eat it. You're not going to win every single trade. It doesn't work that way. And so, maybe Corpusalo will pan out. We'll see. C plus, says Denise. Okay, well, hey, listen, it's early. If those guys don't play good, it'll be a C or whatever. And we're gonna find out, how they do. So anything's possible, but now I think the reason, and I think the reason for the C plus right now is because Jeremy Swayman is not signed yet. Both he and the Bruins both decided not to go to arbitration. Swayman in particular voiced his displeasure with that whole activity last year. Didn't like it one bit. Was not happy. And I gotta move along here before I want to touch on the Patriots real quick too. So I'll try and wrap this up as I watch the clock. Right now he's unsigned. Sweeney, I think, has the Harry Sinden syndrome, where they're kind of lowballing him a little bit. I feel it's my guess. Swayman knows he has the leverage now, especially with Allmark on. He probably wants $8 million or $8.5 or whatever a year. And the Bruins don't have the space now with the signings they made. I think their space is about $8.6 million. So you can't give Swayman $8.5 million or $8 million this year and have room to make some additions or subtractions. I remember last year there was 1 or 2 games where the Bruins could only dress 19 guys or 18 guys because they didn't have enough room under the cap. So they can't let that happen again. And I'm not saying Swayman doesn't deserve the money, because he's proved he could play. He proved in the playoffs. He did a great job. But 7 years, $7 million a year should be like the most that he gets. If he's getting 8, if he wanted 8 years and $8 million a year, I mean, look, again, there's ways to do those deals. I know that the agents don't like it. You can backload them, you can front load them. My preference is when they're young to front load them, and you pay them, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, whatever. But that doesn't mean for the next year or two, you could do 7, 7, 8, 8, blah blah, until you get some contracts coming off the books. And hopefully they can figure out a way to fix it. Now, also, I didn't realize that until I did some reading, that other teams still have the right to make him an offer as a restricted free agent. And so another team could swoop in, and I'll use a team that desperately needs goaltending, and Philadelphia Flyers could offer him 8 or 9 million, maybe even 10 million a year, and the Bruins wouldn't be able to match it, and he could be gone. And then you're stuck with Corpusalo and Brandon Bussi. And so, can't win games without a good goalie, absolutely. There's 2 schools of thought there. You definitely need a good goalie, because Philadelphia's been fighting it for about 15 years. They've had horrible goaltending. But you also have to have, the goalie's only as good as the 5 guys in front of him. And so, I'll use last year. I use last year as an example for Corpusalo. He played in front of a bad defense, bad team. They weren't good, and so I don't know how much his save percentage was only like 890 or something like that, which is on the low end. But that tells me that everybody knows they weren't good. So listen, I hope they sign Swayman. I just hope it's not outrageous. I don't want 10 years, 80 million. That's insane. It's got to be reasonable, and I think that's what they're holding. Now, here's the problem: the longer it goes, the more likely it runs into camp. And so, I would prefer that they get this done before training camp starts, because as we've seen with athletes across multiple sports, when it gets into training camp and the guys are late and they come in late, either at the end of camp or the beginning of the season, they get hurt, get not up to speed, and then half their season's wrecked. And so they got to do the right thing and fix this before training camp starts. If they don't do that, they're screwed. We had the best two goalies on the planet. Well, having the best two goalies on the planet didn't win them the cup. So that platoon thing only works for so long. It's not going to work going forward. They needed to do like the Red Sox and pick a lane. I think they picked the right lane. Swayman's younger. And again, he played well in the playoffs. It wasn't his fault that they lost. And it wasn't Allmark's fault ultimately that he didn't get a chance to play, but you know, you can't have a $5 million goalie sitting on the bench, and I don't like the platoon thing anymore. That play one game on, one game off, one game on, one game off. That not too many other teams are doing that. Yeah, you got a young guy that I think can handle the load. You got to give it to him. He's not signed. I'm aware of that. So look, like I said, they got to get it done by training camp. That's the goal for me. Is he needs to be signed by training camp, the beginning, not the end, and not the beginning of the season. The window for him to sign is December 1st. If he doesn't sign by December 1st, he has to sit the whole year. And then I would say, regardless, if he's not signed by training camp, shame on Sweeney. Now, you know, that's going to change my grade of B plus to, you know, D plus, because you got your top goalie sitting at home, and he doesn't need to be. You know, the hardball Harry Sinder used to play with everybody. You don't have to do that anymore. And the Bruins, since the salary cap has came in, I give them a ton of credit. They've spent up to the cap. The spending isn't the issue. It's where they've spent it. They've had a few bad contracts, a few hiccups, but this is something that needs to get rectified. I know that you know, there's a Don Sweeney, you know, hate club because of how he's negotiating these things, but I think overall, you know, the last couple of years, you got to give them a little bit of kudos, because they were competitive last year, and I didn't expect them to be where they were. Anyway, let me move along. The time is getting away from me, Frank. Forget it. You're not here. What else is new? I'm long-winded again. I want to touch on the Patriots real quick before we move along to the poll questions and so forth. We have small Patriots news. Matt Judon wants a new contract. All right, he's due to make $6.5 million this year. He renegotiated his contract. He signed a 4-year deal. They did him a solid the last couple of years. They renegotiated it. They put him in the $19 million range for linebackers. Blah blah. He gets hurt in week 4. He hasn't played, and now he's pulling the "I want a new deal" crap again. I'm sorry, he's 32, not 28. I know they made him an offer, and they're not close. The sides are far apart. I don't know how far apart they are, but they listen, this guy's got to play. I'm sorry. You know, if I was that, I'd be like, look, they got to have a deal in place that has incentives for games played. You know, your base salary is X, and then, you know, if you play 8 games, it's this, and 12 games, it's that, and the whole season, it's that. They have to, and I would not renegotiate him a new offer without that in place, because, otherwise, let him sit. I wouldn't cut him. The salary cap hit's too big. You know, I think the salary cap hit's like 14 million or 11 million or some stupid nonsense. But let him sit. You know, he's a good player, and I like him, but I don't like the nonsense now every year. You signed a contract, you got on your contracts. This sit-ins, or whatever they call them, done. I think that, listen, he's an important piece of the defense when he's healthy, but you can't renegotiate him to another 14 million for this year, or 20 million or whatever, and then he plays 4 games, then you don't have him. I mean, that's stupid. Alright, Don Sweeney out of here trained, no more shame on him, good riddance. Okay, yeah, I get that. Listen, he'll get his just desserts if he screws that up, Don Sweeney. I gotta move along and talk about the Patriots. Devon Godshaw, same thing. He's 30 years old, signed a 2-year deal to come here. $20.8 million with $15 million guaranteed. He's due to make $7.15 million this year. Wants a new deal, wants an extension, whatever he wants. I don't know what he wants. You know, if he says I want 10 to 12 million, I'd probably say no. You know, and look, nose tackle, defensive tackle, he's 330 pounds. Those guys are not easy to find. But he's 30. So you sign him for a 2-year extension again, another 10, 20 million or whatever. I don't know. I mean, you know what? I think they need to look at, and maybe they've done this already because they keep an eye on that stuff, right? What's the free agent class look like next year? Is there another guy they can get to replace him? That'd be a younger, cheaper option. I don't know because I didn't dig into it. But again, you know, fine, stay at home. You know, I'm getting tired. I'm glad they re-signed a lot of their guys. The Patriots did. I really am, because you have to have the foundational pieces. Frank and I have talked about this ad nauseum, right? The defense is in pretty good shape. Look, they played pretty good without Judon. Obviously, they're better with him, but they played pretty decent without him. And Godshaw, the nose tackle guy. Look, he's a good player. I'm not knocking him at all. But I'm getting tired of this, you know, I want a new contract before the training camp, or I'm going to sit and all this crap. Knock that nonsense off. Ask for a deal. Try to get it done. See what happens. I mean, but guys got to start honoring these contracts. I can't deal with it anymore. All right, there's my quote unquote rant / 2 cents on the Patriots. I'd be curious to see what people's thoughts are. I'm going to put those as poll questions. If those guys should be re-signed or not, so we get some people's thoughts. I need to move along now. I'm already over. We're gonna go to the poll questions from last week. Where I put you? Okay. Are you happy with the Celtics draft picks? We had yes, they should help right away, 100%. No, they need a center, 0%. All right. Low voting in the poll, so maybe, excuse me, there are more people that feel differently, but that's the results we got. Do you like the Bruins signings of Elias Lindholm and Nikita Zadorov? Yes, 100%. No, 0. I would be hard pressed to find anyone that's unhappy with those signings, given where they were last year. They definitely immediately improved the team, in my opinion. So we'll have more poll questions this week. I've got a few up my sleeve. Let's see. The surprise for next week. Okay, predictions from last week. I'm gonna start with mine because they're wrong as usual. What else is new? Frank, that's music to your ears, I'm sure. I said last week that somebody would come in for an offer with Swayman that the Bruins wouldn't match and he wouldn't be a Bruin. Wrong again. Hasn't happened yet. Doesn't mean it still can't happen, but wrong. And I also said that the rumors for Kenley Jansen would heat up. Wrong again. I think that people are aware he's probably on the trading block. I know that the Red Sox are looking to slash salary. That's a conversation for as we get closer to the deadline. What's going to happen with him? So I'm not going to get into it here. We're going to move along. Frank said that the Celtics were going to explore a sign and trade with Sam Hauser and he was going to be gone. Now, they picked up his option. That does not mean that they still can't do that. However, it didn't happen last week, so he's wrong there. But that could still happen. I say not likely because I don't think that they'd wanna, I mean, they got them on the cheap. So I think they would wanna stand pat unless, another team came in and gave the Celtics something that they needed. And also unless the rookie they drafted is like knocking it out of the park, lights out with the threes, and basically taking minutes away from Hauser. That's the only way I can see them moving him along. And Frank's other prediction is the Red Sox will continue on the winning streak and they will be above 500 next week. Ding, 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 Frank, you got it. They're 10 games over 500. I did not see that coming, especially knowing that they were playing the Yankees again. I really thought that after the Yankees blew them out 14-4 that they were going to be in trouble, but they took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. That's pretty impressive, what they're doing. So that's it for that. Now, prediction for this week. Again, I'm only going to do one because I don't get them right. But my surprise prediction that I've been holding on to is that at some point after the All-Star break, might be after the trade deadline or maybe in August, at some point, I predict that Rafael Devers is going to be shelved for the rest of the season with this shoulder injury. And I don't know if that means he's going to have surgery or rehab or what, but I think that it's going to reach a point where he's not going to be able to play. So that's my prediction. It's a long-range prediction, but that's a long-range prediction. Let me do you know what? Let me do a short-range one for next week, right? This just popped into my head. I will say that Jaren Duran gets in the All-Star game and steals a base. It's not a great prediction, but maybe it's something that little hopeful. Get to see him in the game, see him do something. I'll go with that. So there's two. I don't. I'm prepared, Frank. I'm prepared to be wrong again. Don't worry. Anyway, I've overrun as usual. What else is new? I want to thank those that have tuned in to watch. Kev, I'm sorry I couldn't figure out how to get you in here. I need to get this rectified. It's driving me crazy. Denise, thank you for watching and for chiming in. Appreciate your input. And so we're looking forward to seeing everybody next week. Thank you again for your support and for voting. And everybody have a good rest of the week and weekend. We'll see you next week. Thank you.